thanks everyone. I'm Neel Sundaresan. I manage the eBay Research Labs. So I talked to a couple of people in the morning, and they asked, why is eBay interested in search? So I thought I need to introduce a new slide in my presentation. Just a little bit of statistics on what we do. So we serve hundreds of millions of searches a day. And one of the interesting things about eBay is that it covers all the topics that we actually talked about today. I was very happy Marty talked about tagging, because that's one of the very primary things that we have on the site. I'll talk about it in a little bit. Social networking or social search or even Second Life actually plays an interesting way in eBay. There's a huge category of Second Life items showing up on eBay. I'll talk about it in a little bit. But a little known fact: a million families in the United States make a living on eBay, solely on eBay. So the search we do is very important. And somebody pointed out finding versus search. In fact, in eBay, we don't call search as search. We call search as finding. I'll tell you why in a minute. So it's interesting to coming at this point. A lot of the points that were touched up before, I can address that. So one of the things, as we understand search, we bias it towards commerce, which means every time somebody searches on something, every time somebody adds a content to the site, there is some money, dollar value attached to it. So, which is what I call putting your money where your mouse click is, and that's a very high value. What do you have for searching? Small titles and some description. The people who come to search, very rarely they look for description or search on description. They mostly search on title. Now, as a seller, there's a huge challenge. You've got 10 or 15 words on the title to best address the item or the best represent your item, at the same time win against all the other people who are trying to sell similar items, right? So there is kind of a co-opetition, because you don't want to look like a fraudster, you don't want to look like a spammer, you want to look like a genuine seller. I mean, you want to be a genuine seller, you want your wares sold, but at the same time keep up your reputation. So that's an interesting challenge there. As a buyer, you come in, there's a huge disconnect between the buyers and the sellers, and especially depending upon what you sell. You're selling a truck. You can write pages and pages, but nobody's going to search on those things. But at the same time, if you put in 10 pictures, there's a dent at the back, there's a scratch in the front, the color is pink, whatever that is, and you put it in images. But at the same time, nobody has a way to search in images. People come in, type in a bunch of keywords, and look for results. They don't find it, they go away. They go away, your business is affected. So there are huge challenges there. The other problem, we have a long tail. And the long tail means it's not laptops and cameras and stuff that have catalogs attached to them. We sell things like, somebody's grandmom knitted a sweater in their garage in the Midwest somewhere that's sitting in the garage for 20 years. You're trying to list it. What is the catalog entry for that? How do you best represent it? Somebody listed a Virgin Mary cheese sandwich. They had a cheese sandwich sitting in their refrigerator for some time and found Virgin Mary on it, and suddenly other things like Jesus on pancake arrived, and so on and so forth. I mean, these are high-value items. They sell for thousands of dollars. I mean, so, these are interesting challenges for us, because if they sell well, we make money, the seller makes money, and the buyer is satisfied. If they're fraudulent items, we need to get rid of them and actually take the seller and buyer. So natural language search is not really an issue for us, because most of our buyers and sellers, community members, as the rest of the web, can barely spell. We saw that in the morning. So, spelling is one of the tough things. So asking them to ask a question is even tougher. So they're going to give you 2 words, and you need to come up with the best answer. That's one of our challenges. As I said, catalogs is impossible. So we look at relevance. I'll give you a simple example. You're looking at iPod Nanos. You go and type in iPod Nano. Now, you want to know what the user means when they type in iPod Nano. Do they mean players? Do they mean skins? Do they mean chargers? Do they mean songs? What do they mean, right? As a seller, if I'm selling a skin, which costs me $1.99, I'm going to put in as many keywords as possible that might make it look like a player, so that it comes up high on relevance. So the challenge for us in terms of search is when somebody types in iPod Nano, trying to find out what the intent of that search is and trying to translate that to a player or a skin or a nano. So we use some of the adaptive relevance feedback that Marty talked about in the afternoon, some of those techniques to help. Similar searches, query refinement, that's a huge thing. Many of our users come in on the site. If you look at the top queries, they are not specific at all. You're looking for a Persian rug. You don't know what the details of that are. They just type in Persian rug. They look at a bunch of stuff. If it's not interesting, they go away. So how do you navigate those users to the best query so that they buy something from your store, right? They buy something on the site rather than just walking away. So it's every time somebody walks away, you take a ding. So that's very important to us. So we use tags to solve some of these problems. I won't go into the details. I think Marty talked about it in a much better way than I would ever talk about it. So I just want to kind of tell you what are our search problems, and these are very relevant to the problems we see in social media today also. So I'll quickly run through this. Basically, we break it up into three parts, which I think everybody talked about today, which is things that are searchable, and what is the language that is used for, and who is the person that is searching. So we've gone from static web pages, and we've had all the way back in '96 from Kleinberg's algorithm to various other metrics to say who links to whom and how repeated they are. And we've gone from there to going to blogs and answers. The amount of text is shrinking. The amount of images media is growing. But at the same time, the search language is still the same. So if you look at commerce, right, I mean, I'm going to skip some of this because I'm running out of time. As I said, let me just go to some of these things. So, for us, it's not really searching so much. It's about finding. Somebody comes and searches for something. You don't want them to walk away. How do you merchandise stuff to them? How do you present something else to them that they find interesting and they buy and go away from your site? So for us, it is about finding, right? With web search, with advertising, you see some of that stuff. Why do people click on the ads on the site? It's not what they exactly looked for. It's something that's interesting to the site. So that's why finding is a lot more interesting and important to us, and anybody who wants to make money off of the web. And I don't know if you guys have seen places like Stumbled Upon and Wood. It's basically you go to the site and do a bunch of searches, but you'll find something that's totally unrelated to what you searched for, and you'll actually end up buying it. So that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for. Second life, John Paul talked about second life. That's really interesting. You live a second life. As a woman was interviewed, and she said, if I don't have to eat, pee, or have sex, I will never leave second life. So it's that important, right? And people build their lives around second life. It's not a large community, but it's a growing community. And how do I relate that to my first life? What are the wares? How do I translate the wares that I found in the second life to the first life? So that is a huge aspect there. That's important to us. And if you've looked at companies like Nero, Sky, and Emotive, maybe you want to present to them based upon what they're thinking about rather than what they're looking for or what they said they're looking for. Many times there's a huge disconnect between what they're looking for and what they're thinking. So how do you translate that? Those are some of the future problems. So I'm going to skip over this because of lack of time. And one thing I wanted to address, which was not addressed very well in the morning, which is basically peer-to-peer networks. We didn't talk so much about it, at least. So for us, it's really important. With Skype in our business, it's really important. And with peer-to-peer, a lot of the stuff. So we attach commerce to peer-to-peer. Basically, it brings up a lot of things that are important to us, which is presence. Presence is very prime to peer-to-peer. And peer-to-peer is going to be the future, as there was an article in Economist a couple of weeks ago, which basically said, sex and pornography is a leading indicator of what's going to be hot. And so, they said on the web, sex and pornography matured, and people moved to social networking. Sex and pornography matured there, people moved to peer-to-peer. And now, peer-to-peer, sex and pornography is most popular there. So, which means for search, peer-to-peer is going to be hot in the future. That's my conclusion. And here we have to look at a whole bunch of other stuff, things like what are the circles of trust? What is the relative reputation? And so all of a sudden, reputation becomes a lot more important as to who you're getting the information from, what is the reputation in the network, and stuff like that. So, thank you.